Hello and welcome to this fourth Summer School pre-coaching call session. Thank you for joining me either live or maybe you're watching the recording. We've got some really deep and interesting questions tonight, and we'll also take some live from the people here. But I just wanted to start. Mary is on the call, and as some of you know, she was having trouble with a person in her office that was very sensitive to rustling of paper and chewing on cucumbers, and Mary has worked out a strategy. So I'm just going to unmute you here, Mary, to tell us the rest of that story. What happened? You said, I found a solution. It was like a eureka sort of moment.
Well, we're 2 days into it, so
Yeah.
2 days is working. So far, so good. Firstly, I used, like at home, I'd use a oil diffuser and, you know, look into the different sort of organic oils that you use for, you know, clarity of mind and that sort of stuff, and for, you know, being relaxed and all that sort of stuff. So we've now got an essential oil diffuser in our office.
In the office. And did you announce it, or did you just do it?
No, I asked. I said, is it okay if, you know, I use this at home? I really like it. Would you like it if I bring it in? And the fact that I also had my dog in there yesterday, it was also, I said, you know, just so we don't get any doggy smells in the office, you know. And it was like, oh, yeah, I love that. And so it's been going pretty much ever since. Yeah. And it's just like been very calming. And so that's been good.
But
She's not
managed to... So technically, you've managed to take away some of that pre-annoyance.
Yep.
By using a very effective strategy, one that we didn't even come up with on the call, but maybe you had a light bulb moment, as Dane says.
Yep. And the other thing is, I just said, oh, do you mind if I just put a little bit of music on softly? Because I've got a playlist of music that I use when I'm working or studying, like just Googled like music for concentration or for alpha brainwaves, sort of that sort of stuff. Yeah. And she seems to have fallen in love with it. The music goes off. It's like, can we have some of that music?
Yeah, so that's awesome. The people who are very sensitive to sound, there'll be a volume and a type of music that you can play that doesn't trip any of their thresholds. And it sounds like you have hit exactly on that. What's interesting is that this music is also used for accelerated learning purposes. And so for Fiona Davey, who'll be watching this tomorrow, and maybe Gail for you as well, it's very interesting with the 2-year-old, the use of music to be able to affect the mood. And if you haven't already come across it, there's a thing called the Mozart effect. And I need to tell you 2 things about the Mozart effect. The first thing is that the claim that the Mozart effect makes kids smarter is not proven, and probably isn't the case. However, the type of parent that would bother to consider what type of music should I play to help my child's development will end up with smarter kids. So it's not the Mozart effect itself, it's the fact that you're thinking about it that goes. Now, that's the first thing to say. The second thing is totally unrelated to that. They have an amazing CD called From Playtime to Sleepy Time. And with 2-year-olds, it's ace. It starts off very high-paced, and maybe you're there playing with the balloons and the blocks and that sort of thing. And then over a period of an hour, the music just simply slows down and basically puts the kid to sleep. And I've seen this work in many instances. This is my go-to present for people who have a baby, because it's 20 or 30 bucks. It's really easy. It's super helpful. And you don't tell them the first bit. You just tell them that it'll also make their kids smarter. So you don't always tell people the entire story on these things. But Gail, when you go and you're nannying the 2-year-old and you turn up with a series, you know, called the Mozart effect, and you say to the parents, do you mind if I use this? You know, it really stimulates the brain, blah, blah, blah. They'll be all in for it. And it's just you and I need to know it doesn't actually have the effect that it says, but everyone else can still think that because that will create it. Then the parents go looking, oh, what other things could we do? Do you know what? We're going to cut out red food coloring. We're going to get rid of, you know, whatever else might be detrimental and put the other things in. All right, Mary. Now, is there any more to the story, or the smell and the sound, and you have a much calmer office?
Much calmer. Yep.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Excellent. And what that really goes to show is just that sometimes these strategies that you put in place, sometimes they're strategies for yourself. Sometimes it's dealing with your pre-annoyance and getting rid of it. Sometimes they're external strategies. There's all of these different layers to consider. And it's so much fun when you look at the world and you're like, which layer, which button do I push to get the effect that I want here? So, and that's whether you're nannying a 2-year-old, dealing with a lady in the office, or if you're in sales, considering how do I get more people engaged in what I'm doing, or how do I convert more? You're always considering more than one layer, and most people are just considering the layer they're already thinking on. Okay? You probably all know the famous Einstein quote that a problem can't be solved at the same level of thinking that it was created at. So we want the flexibility to go, here's the problem, where's the solution? Is it here? 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 You know, other solutions that it could have been for Mary, maybe she just needed to take this lady out to lunch. Maybe the lady had her hackles up because she thought that Mary was going to steal her job. Maybe this person was having a tough time at home and it was some other thing that would have made a difference. Just so happens in 2 days, by experimenting and by giving herself permission to experiment, Mary's found a solution, and that's what we love. I've got a question here on the email from Fiona, and then I'm going to come back to another email question. Okay, so Fiona's got a very long lead into this question, a lot of information for me to help answer it, but I'll ask just the question at the bottom here and then backfill the info for everyone on the call. The question is, how long do you commit to selling your program until you basically give up, until you realize it's not profitable, not just financially, but also emotionally, energetically, etc.? If you could only choose one program to offer, how do you select which program it is? And she says, example, I could do a program for kids or mums and kids. How do I choose between these things? So the information you need to know is Fiona only has a little window each week in which to grow her business. It's yoga teaching, and she's a fine yoga teacher and instructor, and people seem to really like coming along. But as you can tell from the question, she's having trouble getting people along. So, Fiona, I'll tell you straight up, this question, as I looked at it, I was like, oh shit, this is one of those really, really difficult ones. If you've only got a couple of hours a week and you're trying to engage people and sell them into the program, there's not a lot of wiggle room for stuff to go wrong there. You can't go, oh, I'll nudge an extra 10 hours. I'll call 10 more people. There's not a lot of room. So as we go through and try and answer this, we want layers of redundancy so that if something doesn't work, it's still caught at the next level. And if that doesn't work, it's still caught at the next level. So I'll give you an example. And this was my example from years ago. And I did it because I had the opportunity to. I had a classroom filled with people and no obligation to sell anything in particular. And so I got to sell my own program. And I chose one of the programs we used to offer. And there were 50 people in the room, and I went through the normal sales pitch, which basically goes problem, solution, that's why I came up with this, here's who it's for, these are the dates and locations, here's the price, etc., etc., etc. There's a nice structure to sales, which we can talk about if you guys don't know about that type of thing. And so I went through the whole thing and I said, now who's interested? And about 3 people put up their hands, and I think I'd withheld the price. And I said, because I was just mucking around, I said to those people, well, the price is, and I would have said, say $4,000. I said, but if another 2 people are interested, I'll drop the price to $3,500. Right? And so then we did that. I said, now who's interested? And we got to 5 people. And basically all I was doing is I had an amount of money that I needed to make. And Fiona, this will be like you. You've got your 1 to 2 hours a week. You know how much that should provide you. So we can start to play with this a little bit. So I had an amount of money. Let's say it was, so maybe I needed to make $20,000 or something like that. And so 5 times 3.5, I'm now pretty close to what I wanted to make. And then I did a calculation. So I did, 20,000 divided by 8 to give me my new price. And I said, who's on the border? And there was a couple of people said, I'm on the border. And I said, well, I can make it 3,200 if we can get to 8, right? Just kept up, and it was a little game. And in the end, 45 people out of 50 signed up for my program at, I think we made it $1,500 each. So I walked out of there, instead of 20 grand, I walked out having made about 60,000 in sales. At that time in my career, that's all I needed to live for the entire year. So I didn't make any more sales for the rest of the year. That is not how you do business, folks. However, that is how I used to live my life. And it was a fun sort of thing to do. So let's try and take that fun example and put it to a very hard real life. The difference, Fiona, between my example and what you're saying is I had all the freedom in the world, because I could have made $0 that week and it wouldn't have mattered. But you're talking about, I've got my child, my husband, my family, like all of these things going on, all of my commitments. I got a couple of hours a week in which to kick forward. So how do I do this? So let's go. Let's say you were going to make a 10-week program. Cool. And you needed that to return. I don't know what you need, but I'll use round figures. Let's say that you needed it to return. I'm not sure actually if you need that to return $1,000 a week or $500 a week or 200 or 100. I'm going to use 100, not because I think that's what you need. It's just a nice round figure, right? So it's not it's not $100. It's 100 tokens. Is that cool with everyone? And a token can be worth whatever it is, and you can multiply the rest out. So we need that to equal 100 tokens. Over 10 weeks is 1,000 tokens total. So now what we do is we go into our design and we go, okay, 1,000 tokens is 10 times 100 tokens, right? Which could be one person paying 100 tokens for 10 weeks. Or 1,000 tokens is 10 people paying 10 tokens over 10 weeks. Or 1,000 tokens is 50 people paying 2 tokens over 10 weeks. And we go, and I call this doing the math. And you go down the page and basically you do very basic maths and you go all the different ways that this could multiply up to 1,000 tokens. Everyone on the call, you with me so far? So we'll have, 10 times 100, but we'll also have 100 times 10, because 10 people times $100, or 100 people times $10. Okay, so each column will be different. There's 3 basic columns, which is how many people times how many tokens times the frequency, or how many times they'll make that payment. Okay, so now we go through and we multiply it all out, and we've got a range right from 1,000 people paying 1 token down to 1 person paying 1,000 tokens, but you'll notice also that could be 1 person paying 100 tokens over 10 weeks, right? And we'll have this. And it leads to our first question, Fiona, which is, if you're having a party, how many people would come to that party and definitely turn up? So when I have a party, my parties tend to be more dinner parties, not these sprawling parties with lots of people. And that also is the same for me in business. So throwing a party is, how many people can you reach? How many people are in the network? Are you the sort of person where you say something and thousands flock to it? Or are you the sort of person, when you say something, 10 people flock to it, but hopefully the quality is a bit higher? For my business, for Scary and Exciting, this will change over time, of course, but over the last 15 years of business, when I've thrown a party, it's been on the smaller side. So I like to work with, working with 1 person bores me, and so that's out. But I'm not reaching tens of thousands of people either. When I have a party, I like it to be for about 20, 50, 100 people, and I've got a very specific bandwidth that I like to operate in. Okay? Now, don't get me wrong. I love speaking to really large crowds, but someone else would need to provide that for me. I'm talking when I throw a party, and I know it's quite small. So what I do is, out of the multiplication, I rule out all the things that have 1,000 people, and I rule out the thing with 1 person, because I'm like, do you know what, I can get more than that. And it leaves me, in our example here, if I was being Fiona, the yoga instructor, I reckon I could get either 5 people or 10 people. And now I've just worked out the price point and the frequency. Does that make sense to you guys? So my only options, if I go, do you know what, I'm not reaching thousands of people, but I could reach 5 or 10, my option there is, okay, I have to do some quick maths here, folks. 5 people is 200 tokens, split it over 10 weeks. I need 5 people paying 20 tokens over 10 weeks. Or I need 10 people paying 10 tokens over 10 weeks. And that's really, see how instantly I've just come down to the heart of the matter, which is how many people can I reach and lock in, okay? And that basically dictates everything else. And so we've taken your question, which is, how do I know when to give up? And instead gone, here's how many tokens you need. Here's how to reverse engineer the mathematics on it. That will give you an exact form that the business needs to take. And it'll give you a bottom threshold. Does that make sense to all you guys? I now have a minimum to aim at. And so let's say that I want 1,000 tokens, but if I got 600, I'd be in the clear. It would be worth doing. So now I know that if I can get people to pay 20 tokens over 10 weeks, I'm only going forward with the program once I've got 3 people signed up. I'm aiming for 5, but 3 is the minimum before I open it up. And then you set to the marketing, and you call the interested people, or you put the Facebook thing up, or you do whatever you would normally do to get the people. And maybe that's the problem. So next week, we're doing these every 2 days. Tomorrow, type your next question, which is, how do I reach the people? And then we'll address that as a separate question. So what it does, when you reverse engineer the maths, it gives you exactly the type of program you need to go for, and then you set a minimum threshold, and now we're marketing to that minimum threshold, and we only go to the start date if you get that many. Otherwise, you take you 2 hours and you do something else, which could include skipping this term and spending 2 hours a week getting yourself set up for next time. So maybe you spend all of this term not earning the money, and instead engaging people and interesting them in what you do, and ready to go for next term. Okay? So the basic answer to your question is, how do you know whether to go ahead with a program or not? Set a minimum level, like a minimum threshold, and if you go past it, it's game on. If you don't go past it, you basically call the whole thing off. Okay? So, Fiona, after watching this, I bet there's more questions. So type them out on the email, and we'll go again at them. I hope that's useful. I'll just round this out now. You said, how do I know which program to offer? I could do moms or kids, or mums and kids. Once you do the maths, you write out next to each selected multiple all the things you could do for that. And that will give you the flavor. Because if you've got, it would be 20 tokens a week, automatically you go, okay, people might not pay that for their kids, or people, or that's, wow, that's the best deal ever for this, or I'd love it for this. It sort of points you down that path just by how much you're charging and what you want to do for that. All right. So, Dane, just give me a nod if you're asking a follow-on question, or you were taking some notes. If you're asking a follow-on question, I'll take it straight away. Give me a thumbs up. Yeah, cool. Let's unmute you. Yeah, go for it. Hi, Dane. Oh, Dane's just frozen for a second there. The excitement was too much. I can't hear you. I'm gathering you can hear me, but I can't hear you for some reason. Try again. Still don't have you. Sorry. Yep. Yeah, perfect.
Excellent. Okay, so you mentioned before about the different types of markets, whether it be mums, whoever. Same thing apply, and then you write down all the different angles for each of those markets, so mums and all the different sort of propositions, I guess, for mums and different types of subcategories. Does the same thing apply for, because I'm going to undertake this mind, body, spirit sort of coaching program and accept it into. Can't wait. So I want to, obviously, the same thing applies for the different distribution channels. So i.e. online coaching, an online sort of platform, recurring platform. And, I might have 3 different types of channels. It'll be online coaching where I'm doing a smaller amount of people because I want to get transformation and make a significant difference. So I really relate to what you were saying before about smaller numbers. But the actual platform is a resource for information, everything. So that can go to thousands of people.
Absolutely. What you're doing, so this is the difference between Fiona's question, which is I've got this much time per week, and Dane's question, which is I've got the rest of my life and I'm going to devote, epic amounts of time and energy to this. Okay. And listen to, it's the same answer, but it comes across as a different flavor. So what you do, Dane, I'm just going to take, for anything like this, I like to aim at 100,000 first.
Yeah.
It's a nice thing to do. So what I do is I write 100,000 at the top of the page, and then I write 100,000 is 100,000 times one person, or it's 2 people times 50,000, or 4 people times 25. And so far, these aren't very useful, probably. Okay. And then I get down to what I call the usable territory here, which is it's 10 people times 10,000. It's 20 people times 5,000. It's 40 people times 2,500. It's 50 people times $2,000, so on and so forth. 100 people times $1,000. But then check this out. It's 100 people times $20 times 50 weeks. Or the way we'd say it is $20 a week for 100 people over a year is $100,000 turnover. Okay. So you break it down in all the ways that you want. But then the reason you still write it's 100 people times $1,000 as one line, and you write it's 100 people times $20 times 50 weeks as a separate line. So every difference in the maths you write out, because 100 people times $1,000 is your weekend program. 100 people times $20 a week is your subscription program. Okay? And they're different things. So then that's where you write the ideas. You're like, Jesus, for $5,000 I could do this. For $10, that's this. For $20 a week, that's this. And that's why we want every layer of mathematics out, because they all mean different things.
Gotcha. Yep.
By the way, you would also have in there, and I've stopped just on one line and I'm expanding it out, but you would have 100 people times 4 quarterly payments of $250, which is different again from 100 people times 10 payments of $100.
Yeah.
Okay. Each of these will lead to a different product or service idea.
Gotcha.
And then what you do is, we're back to the same question. When you throw a party, but now you're asking, I'm throwing 3 parties, Peter. I'm throwing a big party that anyone can come to, but I don't actually have much skin in the game.
Yeah.
And I'm throwing this little party here, but it's the highest quality and it's $10,000 per person entry. Right? And then you're throwing a middle party as well. And so that's how you separate out the layers there. You don't hone in on one. You're actually going, this is the top bit of my funnel. This is the middle bit of my funnel. This is the bottom of the funnel, but based all on the mathematics.
Yeah.
So what I want to add for that, because you might be able to see the similarities here, is you've heard of a sales funnel before, and almost everyone bases them off this sales funnel. And it's not a bad idea. It's not a bad way to do things, except when you don't need to. Because if you go, do you know what? 10 people at $10,000 a year, shit, I already know 10 people that would do that for what I have to offer. You don't need to do any marketing at all. So you don't need this. You just need this, and get onto it. So sometimes by doing it, you can ditch the whole machine that comes before it. So as you know, I came to my business and totally accident, not planned at all, but the people that I was working for beforehand, that business fell over. And so then that was gone. People were still looking for solutions, and there I was. And so I didn't need to do marketing per se. It was just, here's what I'm doing. And we didn't need this funnel shaped thing. Right. And so I mean, one of the things that I'm really good at is finding solutions like that. Is just going right in for that little bit. So an example is, let's say you've got no people, but you find a joint venture partner who has all of your people.
Yeah.
Then you go, do you know what? Stuff the marketing. Because every small business owner I know goes, and they do the same stupid thing. They go, oh, I need a logo, and I need a business card, and I need a website, and I need this. If you've got certain things in place, you don't need anything except to turn up, right? And so let's say, as an example, Dane, so the question for that is, who already has my people? Who already has my people? And you might go, maybe there's a gym down the road, or maybe you know a guy who owns 5 gyms, and they have 100 members each. And you go, holy moly, if I could just get 2 people signed up from each gym, I'm off and away, right? And remember, we did the 100,000 as turnover. That wasn't your take home. So you were already prepared to spend, let's say, 30% of that on marketing to get them. So now we've got you don't need a sales funnel. You don't need a website. You don't need credibility and Facebook posts and a Facebook page and a business card. You just need to go to the guy who owns 5 gyms and say, hey, here's what I do. I'd love to offer it to your members. I think they'd like it. I'll give you 30% of every person that signs up. What do you reckon? And he goes, yeah, sure. Let's schedule 5 talks, and we're going to do 3 for each location. So you're now going to do like 15 evening talks on 3 different topics to get all your people, and you didn't need the sales funnel at all. Sometimes that's available, right? And so Fiona, that's an extra bit to your question as well. Who has my people? All right. Anything else, Dan?
I was just going to add really quickly too,
Yep.
Pete, referral partners and everything, for example, tapping into and accessing that has proven, really worthwhile in the past. But also these people with communities, for example, where they drive the community in a paid sort of kind of recurring type platform, but they're delivering more value than obviously what the exchange is in return for it.
Yep.
So, if you've got like thousands of people in that sort of forum where you're just delivering epic content all the time, massive value, I guess there's no sales funnel or anything required then, obviously, as well, because the byproduct of that is you can get your 10 people, your 10, people,
Yes.
exclusive party that's going to pay,
Yes.
and exchange for your time and everything
Yep.
a lot as well. So you don't have to go through all the rigmarole.
That's right. There is another avenue, which Dane's pointing out, where you can become the celebrity trainer of that niche, whatever it happens to be. And then you can just pump out content. You never have to worry about IP ever. You just pump it out and give it away as much as you possibly can, knowing that you only need 10 people who want to work with you one-on-one. And out of every 30,000 people you attract, there'll definitely be those 10 people. They will hunt you down just to work with you. So yeah, you could go the celebrity trainer angle on that. I remember getting quoted, you'll love this, Dane, a guy who had done some behind the scenes work with The Biggest Loser and that sort of thing. And a mate of mine hooked him up with me because I wanted some personal training, and I had some very specific things I wanted to accomplish. And he goes, yep, I'll train you 3 sessions a week. That would be about $550. And I'm like, I came home, I was like, $186 for an hour of personal training seems a little bit ridiculous. Maybe I'll skip on it. But someone else would have been more than willing to pay that.
Yeah.
So you can go that angle too. Thank you very much. All right. I'm going to go for another question here. The question here basically is, what do you do when you get in a life situation, you can identify the problem, it's not with you, it's with someone else, and you're trying out strategy after strategy after strategy after strategy, but they're not landing for you. What do you do with that? Short answer, keep trying. The middle answer is, you can have as many bites of the cherry to find a solution as long as you can maintain rapport, but not the fake rapport that's, where people say, oh, you've got to be in rapport. The real rapport, which is trust and responsiveness. So as long as you can keep trust and responsiveness up, then you can have as many bites of the cherry as you want. And if you're playing a long game, like with your children or with a partner or with a workplace, it's fine. You've got time to keep trying different solutions. The key to playing a long game is to not give the game away too much. If a person knows, oh, you're trying to change me, quite often they'll just put their walls up so that you can't have a go from any angle. So what you want to be doing there is, yes, some of the strategies are, well, how about I talk to this person about it? But you can't come on so strong that if that doesn't work, you lose your other opportunities. Okay? So that's the medium answer, which is, as long as you keep rapport, you can have many, many bites of the cherry. The long answer is that, let's go deep first, that we believe that your external world correlates with how you are putting it together on the inside. Carl Jung called this projection, basically. Some of you know it as perception is projection. How you are interpreting the world is how you project it out, and therefore how it is. So part of the long answer is, you have a look for yourself and you ask, and this is where it gets tricky and where most of personal development lets people down. The word reflection is a shit word to use. And most people automatically go for, how is this a reflection of who I'm being? Terrible, terrible word to use. And if we just take like a domestic violence situation, and I'll polarize it, I'll make it female victim and male perpetrator, if you like. If that female victim goes deep and goes, oh, I know that this is just a reflection of me. How is this a reflection of me? You won't find very useful answers. However, if you go, the outside world correlates, that's our better word. It correlates to how we're put together. Then you go, and the domestic violence person goes, I haven't been enforcing my boundaries, so I've attracted in someone who runs over boundaries. Or the person goes, this can happen as well. I want someone to own me. That's a fairly, like if we go masculine, feminine, a fairly feminine type feeling. Like I want to be owned. Then if you attract a person in who does the owning so much that it ends badly, you're like, okay, that's correlating. It's like a jigsaw puzzle piece. Okay, so in our very long answer or our deep game, we go, how is this correlating with how I'm putting the world together? And the most important thing that you do is do that without judgment. Because if you go, this is happening because I'm missing this bit, therefore I'm a shit person, well, now it's doubly bad. And that's not very useful at all. You need to go searching through in a way where when you find it, you're just stoked. You're like, I get it. My lesson here is, and then you go about that. And can you see what we actually do is after the other person, the perpetrator or the person doing the action or the person that triggered this thing, after they allow us access into ourselves, you basically forget about them, right? And you like, if it's your child, you don't forget about, feeding them or sending them to school, but you forget about their behavior. You don't keep going back and going, are they still doing that? You go, I know what my piece is. I'm going to be the person I want to be to the point where this wouldn't bother me. Okay? And so that's a very deep, long answer. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. Can you see that third one? We've got to be so careful with that. Australia at the moment, after that woman was raped and murdered, there's all this discussion about women and men and who should change their behavior and that sort of thing. And the answer is, of course, everyone from all angles, all the time. But people aren't very keen on that answer at the moment because they're looking for somewhere to point the finger of blame. And so what we do is we go, what's my piece in this? And if you're a woman and you find that you go, do you know what? I'm not very good at enforcing my boundaries. I couldn't be fierce if I needed to, right? Then you go, okay, well, let's work on that and getting that piece. If you're a woman and you go, I couldn't not be fierce. Does that make sense to you guys? Right? There's people out there that only have being really full on as their answer. So a friend of mine is off to visit Morocco, and in Morocco, if you're a woman, you're going to get hassled just all the time. That's what happens there. You're not necessarily in danger. It's just really annoying being hassled all the time. If you respond aggressively, you'll escalate the situation. So you need to go, okay, I need this polite, persistent refusal going on. If you're a man in this situation, you're basically stuffed because there is nothing that you can say that won't be made wrong for the next little bit in time. So if you can't handle that, then you need to look at yourself. There's some fun examples of that at the moment where, and again, I'm only talking about this one situation where women are posting, I should be able to walk wherever I want, and it's men that should change their behavior, and men are going, whoa, 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 I haven't done anything, and are reacting, and that's the gap. Not having the ability to not react is a character flaw that can be worked on, right? Not letting other people have their say without needing to insert your side of the equation, right? And so it doesn't matter where you sit on these issues. On our very long game, our very deep game, you can go, how does what I'm experiencing in the world correlate to my inner game, some of you might call it, and find the next piece to work on and work on that. And so if someone is doing a behavior that might be dangerous to you, then or is particularly upsetting to you, then sometimes you'll identify, do you know what, I'm not, and it can go either way, can't it? Either you need to be stronger or right back the other way, which is like the damsel in distress, if you want to put it that way. And So it'll be very interesting to see which way you need to move. Do you need to be more aggressive, or do you need to be at some other stopping point along the track there to solve the problem? And now we go back to the medium answer. But your job is to keep rapport, keep that engagement, so you can have as many bites of the cherry as you want until you find the solution. So yes, we can look deep, but at the same time, we're keeping that engagement there so you can have many bites of the cherry. Folks, having children would be the very best long-term experiment for how to keep rapport, which is actual trust and responsiveness, over a very long period of time, while you have as many bites of the cherry as possible, to see what works and what doesn't work. And you can see that for some families, they accidentally lose that responsiveness. And the cliche is in the teenage years, isn't it? Where the person shuts down, becomes non-responsive to you. And then you've got no bites at the cherry. And it's someone else that's influencing. It's the dropkick friend from up the road. It's the person who hangs out at the youth drop-in center. It's the rap star off television. It's someone that you might not want having more influence because you went too hard at something. Instead of going, do you know what, this is a long-term game, let's just keep that engagement there. You went too hard, you broke something, and now someone else is having that influence. So for those of you who have children, you're already in this game, and hopefully this is enough to have you, do you know what, let's just disengage ever so slightly, once a day, once a week, whatever it takes, so that you can come back fresh and keep up that engagement to have your next bite of the cherry, right? The people who lose, they go too hard too early in laying down the law. You know, as most of you know, I'm pretty anti-drugs in a big way, but that's not how it's going to be with my children, right? It will be like, the fact that I'm anti-drugs will be secret. That's for me. That's my issue. Drugs will be presented to my kids as a very even-handed approach, which is, why do people do this? What effect does it have? Why do they like it? Why do they not like it? What happens when it goes right? What happens when it goes wrong? And the, fingers crossed, effect of that is that they draw their own conclusions. And sometimes it'll work and sometimes it won't work. But if you've drawn a line in the sand and said something like, there'll be no drugs in this household, if I catch you doing that, you're out on your ear, you've got nowhere to go. Right? You've got nowhere to go when they go, oh, this pop singer does this, and I think that person's pretty cool. You've left yourself no influence there, so you can't go too hard after this stuff. So, thank you for your question. The question is very deep and involved, and comes in 3 layers. Okay, and we basically, now that we've layered them out, we want to start at the bottom. Ask yourself, which bit for me is this correlating to? I'll write in the Super 6 this week, which comes out tomorrow. I'll probably write something along the lines of, if you were to imagine that every single occurrence in your life was God saying, hey, I'm handing you this so that you can learn something which will help you become the person you've always wanted to become. What is God up to today? And that's a really nice way to think about life, because there's no downside. If you, I'll tell you something probably too personal, but this just happened. So over the last couple of weeks, I've been really enjoying getting the spit roast out. and like slow roasting amazing meats and smoking them and all of that sort of thing, and having some drinks with my family and my friends. And I've been getting little bits of heartburn from it. And then I basically dismissed it as, oh yeah, I get it. Like, I'm having a little bit of a drink and probably too much meat. Last night at about 2 a.m., I woke up like in a start, like instantly, and the back of my throat was burning in acid and chili. It was the most horrific sensation. And as far as I can tell, the acid out of my stomach while I was lying down had leaked all the way, and it just started burning the back of my throat there. I didn't know what it was, of course, so I jumped up and tried to solve it in every way. But 10 minutes later, it started to fade away, and it was very, very unpleasant. And I was like, all right, if this was a message, what would the message be? Now, for most people, it would be don't drink and don't have the meats. Except that's not really the message, because this is very sporadic for me. I've just had 3 weekends in a row of it, but like the drinking hasn't been anything too much. It is eat more vegetables, dickhead. And that's the message, just very, very clearly. So basically, I guess what I'm saying is I haven't really been eating too much meat and drinking too much. I've just left out the other stuff. But it was so clear, and I'm like, all right, I'm listening. But can you see there's no worst case scenario? Let's just pretend that was a random occurrence, had nothing to do with the diet. If I listen like God's giving me a message, and I go, eat more vegetables, and then I load up on vegetables, there's no disadvantage there. If I go, let's just extend this out now. If I stub my toe and I go, oh, what's going on? And it goes, do you know what? Be more careful, be more accurate, be more precise. Don't be distracted all the time. And I implement that in my life, there's no worst case scenario. If it starts raining and I get drenched wet and I go, oh, what's the lesson? It's like, do you know what? Always be prepared for the different outcomes that can happen. There's no worst case scenario to that. So this makes a splendid version of living where you go and whatever is happening around you, you take it as if it's a sign, as if God's talking to you directly saying, hey, just pay attention to this. It's an amazing way of living with no negative consequence that I can think of. Some of you might be tempted to say, if you're being a bit of a smart aleck, oh, what if you go too far the other way? It wouldn't happen, right? Because that wouldn't be listening to the message. That's overreacting. I'm talking about listening to the message. The message will always be quite centered, won't it? And because if you went out the other way, you get the opposite message to come back to the middle there. And so it makes a really, really nice way of living, especially for atheists who probably need that more. No, I'm joking. It's really nice for everyone. If you're religious, you can take it quite literally, as in God is telling me, do this, here's the path. If you're agnostic, you can say something is telling me, do this, here's the path. If you're atheist, you can say the external projection of my superconscious is telling me, da da da. It's the same thing, right? And really help you to go forward. So we've got time for one more thing before we close this off. Is there anyone who would like to throw in the last little bit? Just hit me up in the chat box. Otherwise, we can move along and live to fight another day. So Anyone? Anything? No? Wonderful. You might have noticed that I've started now. So summer school starts on Sunday the 24th officially, if you like. If you've got any friends and family that want to join in, because this is just the preamble. I mean, it's chock full of goodness. I really hope you're enjoying it. But this program, once it gets warmed up, is really, really cool. So if you've got anyone that wants to join in, then I'm happy to talk to them, happy to be introduced by email, whatever. If we're doing this, we might as well have all of the good people along for the ride. So only a couple of days left to get in for anyone that you might want to join along. Thank you for joining me. Our next call is at some point in 2 days from now. I think I put it Thursday midday, and I'm pretty sure on that. And I'm looking forward to speaking to each and every one of you then. Gail's just confirmed Thursday midday for session 5 of our pre-coaching for Summer School 2, the winter edition. Oh, by the way, if you got that email today, the launch of Summer School 2, you have to read it in the movie voice, because that's how I wrote it. Sometimes I just write things that are hilarious just for me, but like this is how it actually reads. Like, activate the rest of 2018. If you want to activate the rest of the year, then Summer School 2 is for you. This is the official launch of our mid-year summer school program, the winter edition. Click here to activate, and so on. So when I wrote it, that's how it was in my head. It's just a joke for myself. Hopefully everyone else is somewhat inspired by it and joins us, because we're going to really have a lot of fun. Thank you, guys. Good night. I'll see you all very soon.